tutorial, you'll use logic to make health go up and go down. Oh, Cuthbert. Let's start by going into play mode.
Nope.
See if you can get Connie across that even after falling such a long way, Connie's just fine. There's only one problem. There's no way for her to get back up. What we need is for Connie to respawn on a platform if she falls. So that's going to be our next job. First, switch back to edit mode. Remember to rewind time with L3 as we always do after play mode. In order to make Connie respawn, we're going to use a health modifier gadget. We'll use it to make the floor around the platforms lethal. Health modifiers can damage or heal anything that has a health manager. And, as luck would have it, Connie has one built into her logic. Go to the assembly menu. Open it with the square button if it's closed. Select the gadgets menu, the one with the 3 connected squares. You'll find the health modifier in the movers and output section, which is represented by a box with an arrow. Now select the button that has a clockwork heart on it. You'll find the health modifier in the movers and output section, which is represented by a box with an arrow. Now select the button that has a clockwork heart on it. Your imp will now be equipped with a health modifier gadget. Stamp it somewhere central, near the floor, using R2 or X. Now select the button that has a clockwork heart on it. Your imp will now be equipped with a health modifier gadget. Stamp it somewhere central, near the floor, using R2 or X. Then unequip the gadget with circle. Your scene now has a health modifier, but to make it work as intended, we'll have to tweak it first. We'll do that in the next step. Let's go ahead and open the Health Modifiers Tweak menu. Hover over it, hold L1 and press square. Here you can set the options for how the health modifier works. That includes how much health is modified, which is shown in the first slider. Right now, it's set to -100. This means it will take 100 health points away from anything it affects. Just enough to make Connie respawn. The modifier mode is set to per hit, so 100 health points will be taken away when anything touches it. But since we want the area around the platforms to be lethal, we need to set the modifier type to zone. Select the zone icon with X now, then go to the Zone Properties tab so we can change its size and shape. The icon is at the top of the menu and looks like a box in a zone. Look for the Zone Shape section of the menu, then select the cube. You can use the zone sliders to make the zone bigger. Be careful not to make it too tall. The respawn zone should be level with the pink lines around the platforms. If you need to, move the health modifier gadget nearer to the floor. When you hover over the edges of the zone, you'll see white arrow gizmos appear. Grabbing these with R2 will let you change the size of the zone. Using those, you can make sure the area around the platforms is covered. Now let's test it in play mode and see what happens. Perfect. If Connie falls off now, she'll just respawn back on the platform. Before we move on, what happens? You can make sure what happens. Perfect. If Connie falls off now, she'll just respawn back on the platform. Before we move on, maybe we should do something about this booby-trapped bridge. Switch back to edit mode and rewind time with L3. There. See what's causing it? It's that trigger zone. When Connie activates it, the bridge collapses and there's no way across. If you've finished the first logic tutorial, you'll know that the counter is being used to remember the trigger zone has been activated. If you follow the wires, you'll see there's one connected to each block. These red dots on the blocks are not gadgets. They show that a wire is connected to a setting in the block's tweak menu. Explore the logic for yourself. Or, if you want to move on and get Connie on her way, just delete the trigger zone by pressing triangle over it. That'll prevent any of the logic from activating. Then, once Connie can safely make it to the second platform, move on to the next step. Now's probably a good time to show you how to add checkpoints. When playable characters like Connie activate a checkpoint, the scene remembers their progress. So when they respawn, they'll appear at the last checkpoint instead of starting off at the beginning. Go to the Assembly menu, then the Gadgets menu. If the last section you used is still open, close it by pressing circle over it.
That's the first time they've said how to do that.
X, then select the checkpoint. It's the one that looks like a location marker. There. Now your imp is equipped with a checkpoint gadget. The direction of a checkpoint determines which way a character will face when it respawns. So make sure the front of the gadget, the side with the black outline, is facing the direction you want Connie to face. Remove the gadget from your imp with the circle button, then open the Checkpoints tweak menu. Checkpoints use a detection zone, just like health modifiers. So select the Zone Size tab from the menu. This is set to a sphere by default, but to make sure it can't be missed, let's change it to a cube. You can use the zone size sliders to make the checkpoint cover the width of the platform. Above the gadget, you'll see a white Move gizmo. Grab it with R2 to put the activation zone where you want it. Just make sure Connie can't miss it. The white handle shows the direction Connie will face when she respawns. Check that it's pointing the right way. Grab it with R2 if you need to adjust it. Let's close that tweak menu with L1 and circle. Now try it out in play mode to see if the checkpoint remembers your progress. Sorry, Connie. We're gonna have to respawn you again. But it's all in the name of science, I promise. Great, there she is, right at the checkpoint again. When you're ready, go back to edit mode, rewind time, and move on to the next step. This next bridge looks a bit too hot to walk on. But Connie's a tough explorer, and she's always ready for danger, so let's give it a go. Okay, that block's too big for Connie to jump over. Better get her back to safety before it's too late. Let's switch back to edit mode and see how the bridge is damaging Connie. Move closer to the bridge and keep an eye out for any gadgets attached to it. Ah, there's one. A clockwork heart icon, so it's another health modifier. It looks like, instead of using a zone, this one is attached to the bridge. So whenever Connie walks on it, she loses health. If only that block wasn't in the way, she could make it across. But what if the block itself could lose health? We could give it a health manager of its own and see how that works out. Go to the assembly menu, then open the gadgets menu. You may need to close the gameplay gear section if you opened it earlier. Then you can expand the movers and output section. Look for a heart icon, not the clockwork heart this time. Select it with X to give your imp a health manager gadget. Stamp one near the block with R2 or X, then press circle to unequip it from your imp. To make the health manager affect the block, we'll need to attach it. The easiest way to attach gadgets to objects is to use what we call surface snap. Grab the health manager with R2 and hold it over the block. All you have to do to activate surface snap is hold L1 while your imp holds the gadget. This makes it hug the surface of any object you hover over. Now release R2 to attach the gadget to the block. You can also let go of L1 to stop using surface snap. In the next step, I'll show you how to tweak this health manager. Now that we've given the block health, let's take a closer look at it. Hover over the health manager, hold L1 and press square to open its tweak menu. The sliders here define the block's maximum and current health. Click R3 to play time, and you'll see the health starts to go down. That's because the bridge's health modifier is damaging it. But you'll notice it's going down much slower than Connie's health was when she was on the bridge. The reason for that is this health manager has a 1-second cooldown. So whenever the block takes damage, it's invulnerable for 1 second after that. Grab the cooldown slider with X and pull it to the left with your imp. So what happens when it reaches 0? Not a lot right now. But we can deal with that in the next step. For now, feel free to experiment with the health manager settings. Start time with R3 to see your changes, then rewind it with L3 to reset the health manager. Once you're done, you can move on to the next step. An object doesn't automatically get destroyed when it runs out of health, so we need to do a bit more work before we can get rid of that block. Let's take a closer look at its health manager. If its tweak menu is still open, close that first with L1 and circle. See the output ports on its right edge. Hover over the one at the bottom, the one that has a heart with a cross over it. This is the no health output, which sends a signal when the health manager is depleted. It can be used to trigger any number of things, but right now, we're going to use it to destroy the block. Go to the assembly menu and take a look in the gadgets section. It may still be open from earlier, when you selected the health manager. Look for a skull icon on a button in the movers and output section and select it with X. This is the Destroyer gadget, It destroys whatever it's attached to. To attach it to the block, we can use Surface Snap. So hover the destroyer over the block, hold L1 to make it surface snap, and press R2 or X to stamp it. Now you can unequip the destroyer gadget with Circle. Okay, before we connect it up, let's just see if it works by clicking R3. Oh, it works all right. When time is running, the destroyer activates and destroys the block. Rewind time with L3 to bring it back. We don't want the destroyer to activate until the block's health has run out. To do that, we'll need to connect the no health output port to the destroyer's power. So hover your imp over the health manager's no health output port and press R2 or X to create a wire. This will make power ports appear on the gadgets in the scene. Stretch the wire over to the destroyer and connect it to the power port with R2 or X.
That was predictable.
Great. Time to test it again with R3 and see what happens. When the block's health runs out, it will get destroyed, leaving the path clear for Connie. But how do we know how much health the block has left? We could always look at its tweak menu, but you can't see that in play mode. So click L3 to rewind time, and I'll show you how to display health in the next step. If the Health Manager's tweak menu isn't open already, open it now with L1 and square. When you hover over the menu sliders and buttons, you'll see ports popping out of the side. These are just like the ones on the outside of the gadget, but there are a lot more of them. And you might also have noticed that there's another gadget stamped on the side of the block. That's a number displayer. If we connect a wire from the current health output to the number displayer's input port, we'll be able to see the block's health count down in play mode. So let's go ahead and do that. Hover over the current health slider's output port. Then press R2 or X to create a wire and stretch it to the number displayer. Once you've connected it to its input with R2 or X, you can switch over to play mode and test out the whole scene so far. Excellent. Now we can see the block taking damage until it's destroyed. Once you can get Connie to the next platform, switch back to edit mode and move on to the next step. Well, Connie made it through, but she's a bit worse for wear. The burn effect you see on her is triggered by the current health output from her health manager. It gives you a visual cue of her health. The more singed she gets, the less health she has. I'm not sure poor Connie has enough health left to make it across the last bridge. What she needs is a bit of healing, so let's create a healing zone where she can recharge. This green pad looks like a good place to recover. We can turn it into a healing zone by placing a health modifier on it, using Surface Snap. You've used Surface Snap before, so this should be no problem. Go to the Assembly menu and select a health modifier from the Movers and Output menu. It's the one with the clockwork heart on it, remember? Now activate Surface Snap by holding L1. Then attach the health modifier to the green pad. Now you can unequip the gadget with the circle button and open the modifier's tweak menu. We need to change it so it heals Connie. The health modifier is set to -100 by default, which won't do Connie any good. She has 100 health to start with, so that will take it all away and make her respawn. Grab the slider with X, drag it right, and set it to +20. We want the healing zone to heal Connie while she's standing on it, so you also need to set the modifier mode to continuous. You can leave the modifier type as impact, since you've snapped the health modifier to the platform. And that's all there is to it. Close the tweak menu with L1 and circle, and give it a try and play mode. Alright, that should give Connie the health. And that's to continuous. You can leave the modifier type as impact, since you've snapped the health modifier to the platform. And that's all there is to it. Close the tweak menu with L1 and circle, and give it a try and play mode. Alright, that should give Connie the health boost she needs to cross that final bridge. Oh, she's been through a lot today, so take her through the door to end this tutorial.
Holy crap. Okay.
For this logic tutorial, I've created a jumping challenge for Connie and Cuthbert. Looks like Cuthbert's feeling confident. Oh, better luck next time, Cuthbert. Let's see how Connie gets on. When Connie jumps on a platform, she'll only have a few seconds to get to the next one before it disappears. But to give the game some replay value, we're going to create some scoring logic. See that microchip on the side of the start platform? Open it up with L1 and X. This is where we'll build the scoring logic. These trigger zones detect when Connie crosses the start and finish lines. If Connie falls, the health modifier will trigger this global settings gadget to reset the scene. So Connie can try again, and all the platforms will be back in place. It'll be up to you to fill in the rest. Keeping score in a scene is done using the health modifier to get to the next one before it disappears. But to give the game some replay value, we're going to create some scoring logic. See that microchip on the side of the start platform? Open it up with L1 and X. This is where we'll build the scoring logic. These trigger zones detect when Connie crosses the start and finish lines. If Connie falls, the health modifier will trigger this global settings gadget to reset the scene. So Connie can try again, and all the platforms will be back in place. It'll be up to you to fill in the rest. Keeping score in a scene is done using a score gadget. Go to the assembly menu and select Gadgets. Open up Gameplay Gear with X and find the score gadget. It looks like a prize sticker with 100 on it. Make sure you don't grab the score modifier by mistake. Stamp a score gadget onto the microchip next to the finish line trigger zone. Then unequip the gadget with the circle button. Start the next step when you're ready to start setting up the score gadget. Let's take a look at the score's tweak menu. Open it up with L1 and square. It's a pretty simple gadget. You can rename the gadget by selecting the name at the top. This is really important if you have more than one score in the scene, but we can leave this score with its default name. At the bottom of the tweak menu, find the button with the score icon on it. Hover over it, and you'll see it's called Post Score. When this button receives a signal, it will post the current score. But post it where? Well, if your scene is placed in a dream, the score will be displayed on the scoreboard for that dream. The score for this scene should be posted when Connie crosses the finish line. So let's use the finish line trigger zone to activate it. Create a wire from the detected output port of the finish line trigger zone with R2 or X. Extend it over to the score tweak menu, then connect it to the input of the post score button. Now when Connie crosses the finish line, the current score will be posted. Close the tweak menu with L1 and the circle button. This score gadget is all set. In the next step, I'll show you how you can display the score on screen. The score for this scene should, well, really, it's a pretty simple gadget. You can rename the gadget by selecting the name at the top. When this button receives a signal, it will post the current score. The score for this scene should be posted when Connie crosses the finish line. So let's use the finish line trigger zone to activate it. Create a wire from the detected output port of the finish line trigger zone with R2 or X. Extend it over to the score tweak menu, then connect it to the input of the post score button.
Oh.
Now when Connie crosses the finish line, the current score will be posted. Close the tweak menu with L1 and the circle button. This score gadget is all set. In the next step, I'll show you how you can display the score on screen. It's all well and good being able to post a score, but we also want to be able to see it while we're playing. Well, I have a gadget that can help with that. By adding a number displayer to the logic, we can keep a live count of the score. In the assembly menu, select Gadgets. Close the gameplay gear section with the circle button. The number displayer lives in Movers and Output. Its icon is a screen with some numbers on it. Select it with X. In Dreams, logic flows from left to right. So stamp a number displayer to the right of the score gadget. Then unequip it with Circle. If you hover your imp over a number displayer gadget, a number appears on the screen. Select the gadget with X and it'll stay there, allowing you to grab and move it with R2. Move the number to where you want the score to display. You can resize the number with the up and down directional buttons. It looks pretty basic right now, but I'll show you how to jazz it up a bit later.
I wonder.
First, let's hook it up to the score. Open the score tweak menu with L1 and the square button. Find the button called Current Score, then create a wire from its output port. Extend the wire over to the number displayer. On the left edge, there's a port called Number Range. When you plug a wire into this port, its signal will be displayed as a number. And
I missed.
it still
Which?
says zip plus created. you can resize the number with the up and down directional buttons. It looks pretty basic right now, but I'll show you how to jazz it up a bit later. First, let's hook it up to the score. Open the Score Tweak menu with L1 and the square button. Find the button called Current Score, then create a wire from its output port. Extend the wire over to the number displayer. On the left edge, there's a port called Number Range. When you plug a wire into this port, its signal will be displayed as a number.
You got the game, bro? Nice.
And it still says 0. Well, we haven't added anything to the score yet. But you can test that it's working by increasing the initial score slider in the tweak menu. Check that it's working, then set the initial score back to 0. In the tweak menu. Check that it's working, then set the initial score back to 0. The tweak 0. Well, we haven't added anything to the score yet. But you can test that it's working by increasing the initial score slider in the tweak menu. Check that it's working, then set the initial score back to 0. Now close the Score Tweak menu. In the next step, we'll make the number displayer look a bit fancier. To change the appearance of your number displayer, you need to tweak it. In the Tweak menu, there's loads of options for tweaking the appearance of the text, box, and border. The first page contains all the text options. At the bottom of the page, you can select the colour, brightness, and opacity of the text. You can also choose a different font for the number. Hover over the font slider and use the up and down directional buttons to change the font. On the other pages, you can tweak the appearance of the text box and border. There's lots of options to experiment with, but I'm actually going to turn off the box, border and shadow. On each page, just deselect the buttons with the eye icon to hide them. The Tweak menu also has a page for aligning the text. Using these buttons, you can get your text perfectly aligned. I'm putting my score in the middle, at the top. Have a play around with the settings, then close the Tweak menu when you're happy with the look of your number displayer. We've now got a snazzy-looking score display. In the next step, I'll show you how you can add to the score. To make the score go up, we need something for Connie to collect. A prize bubble should do the trick. Prize bubbles are ready-made collectibles you can use in your scenes. Fly over to the first floating platform. Now go to the Assembly menu and navigate back to Gadgets. Close Movers and Output with Circle, then open up Gameplay Gear. The prize bubble icon is a gift-wrapped present. Select it with X. Stamp one above the first platform where Connie can reach it. Then unequip the prize bubble with Circle. You can scale the prize bubble with the up and down directional buttons if you want to make it a bit bigger. Now tweak the prize bubble with L1 and square. In the menu, find the option for Collectible by Imp. It's very important to turn this off. Otherwise, you could collect all the prize bubbles just by depossessing Connie. With L1 and square. In the menu, find the option for Collectible by Imp. It's very important to turn this off. Otherwise, you could collect all the prize bubbles just by depossessing Connie. Now close the tweak menu with L1 and Circle. To make the score go up, we need another gadget, a score modifier. You can find it next to the score gadget in the gameplay gear menu. Select it with X, then stamp one next to the prize bubble. Press Circle to remove the gadget from your imp. Then move on to the next step when you're ready to continue. Right, let's take a closer look at the score modifier. Open the score modifier's tweak menu with L1 and square. The score name box shows which score is being modified. Find the slider called Operation Value. It's down at the bottom. The operation value is how much is added or set by this score modifier. Use the up and down directional buttons to set the operation value to 1.0. 1 point for each prize bubble collected. Next, take a look at the options for operation type. These are very important as they determine how the score is modified. The default option is Set. This means that when the score modifier is activated, it will set the score to the operation value. So in our case, it'll set the score to 1, no matter what the score was before it was activated. That's no good for a collectible, so we need to change the operation type to Add. Select the button with the plus icon on it. When set to Add, the score modifier will add the operation value to the current score. If you want to know what the other operation types do, just hover over them for a few seconds to reveal more info for that button. And that's our score modifier ready to go. We just need to connect it to the prize bubble. We'll do that in the next step. For this next bit, we'll need the tweak menus for the score modifier and the prize bubble. So make sure you've got them both open. Put the prize bubble tweak menu on the left of the screen and the score modifier on the right. In the prize bubble tweak menu, find the button called Just Collected. Its icon is a tick. Create a wire from the Just Collected output port. Extend the wire over to the score modifier and connect it to its power port. Now when this prize bubble is collected, the score modifier will activate and 1 point will be added to the score. Don't take my word for it though. A good dream shaper always tests their work. But we'll need more than one collectible set up to test it properly. Now that we've set up one prize bubble and score modifier, we can clone them onto other platforms. Close both tweak menus, then select the gadgets with X. Now group them by selecting the button in the context menu. Now you can clone the collectible with L1 and R2. Don't make too many just yet, just a few to test they're working. Once you've got a few collectibles, switch over to play mode and test the logic so far. Great! The score is keeping count of how many prize bubbles Connie has collected. We can now clone more collectibles in edit mode. If your score isn't increasing, check that your score modifier is connected and that it's adding and not setting the score. When you've finished adding collectibles, move on to the next step.
But it worked.
Having a score has really upped the game's replayability. But collecting objects isn't the only way to use a score. With the right logic, we could use a score gadget to record fastest times. If you've closed the score logic microchip, open it up again with L1 and X. First, we'll need a new score, so grab one from the Gameplay Gear menu. Stamp it down underneath the first score gadget. To differentiate them, we need to rename this score. Open its tweak menu, then select the title to rename it. I'm calling mine Time.
That's what I was going to call mine.
Just like with the first score gadget, we also want to post the score at the finish line. So connect the detected output of the finish line to the post score input. As this is going to record time, we also need to tweak the default scoreboard settings. They can be found on the second page of the menu. First, change the score unit to time. We also need to change the scoreboard order. When ranking times, the lowest scores should be at the top. So select the option for lower, then move the tweak menu to one side. To see the time on screen, we'll need another number displayer. But there's no need to set up a new one from scratch. Just clone the one we made earlier. That way the appearance will match. Clone the number displayer with L1 and R2. Place it next to the time score gadget. To display time, we need to connect the current score to the number displayer input, just like we did before. In the Score Tweak menu, create a wire from the current score output port. We did before. The appearance will match. Clone the number displayer with L1 and R2. Place it next to the time score gadget. To display time, we need to connect the current score to the number displayer input, just like we did before. In the Score Tweak menu, create a wire from the current score output port. Connect the wire to the number range input on the number displayer. Once that's hooked up, you can close the tweak menu of the score and open up the tweak menu for the cloned number displayer. As this number displayer is showing time, we need to tweak it slightly. In display format, select the clock icon to display time. The option Show Milliseconds is now selectable. Turn it on to make the time display even more precise. Use the options on the alignment page of the tweak menu to set the position of the number displayer. The collectible count is in the middle, so how about at the top, on the right? Select the score number displayer with X if you want to preview them on screen together. Looks good. In the next step, we'll create some logic to record the time. For this next bit, having a score has really upped the game's replayability. But collecting objects isn't the only way to use a score. With the right logic, we could use a score gadget to record fastest times. If you've closed the score logic microchip, open it up again with L1 and X. First, we'll need a new score, so grab one from the Gameplay Gear menu. Stamp it down underneath the first score gadget. To differentiate them, we need to rename this score. Open its tweak menu, then select the title to rename it. I'm calling mine Time. Just like with the first score gadget,
Why won't it
we
fucking
also
move?
want to post the score at the finish line. So connect the detected output of the finish line to the post score input.
Alright, bitch, shut the fuck up. Why won't you move? I know what it is, but I can't remember where the fucking setting is. No. There we go. That's the glitch just happened. God dang it. Alright. Rebooting. Motherfucker.
The lowest scores should be at the top.